The respiratory system is a biological system in the body that enables breathing and the exchange of gases. The primary components of the respiratory system include the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and lungs. It consists of a series of organs and structures that facilitate the intake of oxygen from the air and the removal of carbon dioxide from the bloodstream. Nose and nasal cavity. The primary entry point for air, where it is filtered, warmed, and humidified. Pharynx, throat. A muscular tube that serves as a passageway for both air and food. Larynx, voice box. Contains the vocal cords and is responsible for sound production, also protects the trachea by preventing food from entering the airway. Trachea, windpipe. A tube that connects the larynx to the bronchi, allowing air to pass to the lungs. Bronchi and bronchioles. The bronchi are two main air passages that branch from the trachea into each lung, which further divide into smaller bronchioles within the lungs. Lungs. Two large organs that house the bronchioles and alveoli, responsible for the exchange of gases. Alveoli. Tiny air sacs within the lungs where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs between the air and the blood. Diaphragm. A dome-shaped muscle located beneath the lungs that plays a crucial role in breathing by contracting and relaxing to allow air into the lungs. The respiratory system works in conjunction with the circulatory system to deliver oxygen to the body's tissues and remove carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism. This process is vital for maintaining the body's overall function and homeostasis. What is the primary function of the respiratory system? A. Circulation of blood. B. Digestion of food. C. Exchange of gases. D. Production of hormones. Rationale. The respiratory system's primary function is to exchange gases, specifically to bring oxygen into the body and remove carbon dioxide from the bloodstream. Which structure in the respiratory system is commonly referred to as the windpipe? A. Esophagus. B. Larynx. C. Trachea. D. Pharynx. Rationale. The trachea, also known as the windpipe, is the tube that connects the larynx to the bronchi and allows air to pass to and from the lungs. What are the tiny air sacs in the lungs where gas exchange occurs? A. Bronchi. B. Alveoli. C. Bronchioles. D. Pleura. Rationale. Alveoli are small, balloon-like structures in the lungs where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs between the air and the bloodstream. What muscle plays a key role in the process of inhalation? A. Intercostal muscles. B. Diaphragm. C. Abdominal muscles. D. Pectoral muscles. Rationale. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located below the lungs that contracts and flattens during inhalation, creating a vacuum that allows air to enter the lungs. Which part of the brain regulates the breathing process? A. Cerebrum. B. Cerebellum. C. Medulla oblongata. D. Hypothalamus. Rationale. The medulla oblongata, located in the brainstem, controls involuntary functions, including the regulation of the breathing process. What is the function of the epiglottis? A. Produce sound. B. Filter air. C. Cover the trachea during swallowing. D. Exchange gases. Rationale. The epiglottis is a flap of tissue that covers the trachea during swallowing, preventing food and liquids from entering the airway. Which gas is primarily transported by hemoglobin in the blood? A. Nitrogen. B. Oxygen. C. Carbon dioxide. D. Hydrogen. Rationale. Hemoglobin, a protein in red blood cells, primarily binds to oxygen in the lungs and transports it to tissues throughout the body. What structure prevents the collapse of the trachea? A. Cartilage rings. B. Smooth muscle. C. Connective tissue. D. Alveolar sacs. Rationale. The trachea is reinforced by C-shaped cartilage rings that provide structural support and prevent it from collapsing during inhalation and exhalation. What is the primary function of the nasal cavity? A. Exchange gases. B. Produce sound. C. Warm, moisten, and filter air. D. Protect the lungs. Rationale. The nasal cavity warms, moistens, and filters the air we breathe, helping to prepare it for entry into the lungs. Which structures are involved in the branching of the bronchial tree? A. Alveoli and capillaries. B. Bronchi and bronchioles. C. Trachea and larynx. D. Diaphragm and pleura. Rationale. The bronchial tree includes the bronchi, which branch from the trachea into the lungs, and the bronchioles, which are smaller branches that lead to the alveoli. What is the function of surfactant in the lungs? A. Increase mucus production. B. Decrease surface tension in the alveoli. C. Facilitate oxygen transport. D. Enhance cilia movement. Rationale. Surfactant is a substance that reduces surface tension in the alveoli, preventing them from collapsing and making it easier for the lungs to expand during inhalation. Which membrane surrounds and protects the lungs? A. Peritoneum. B. Pericardium. C. Pleura. D. Meninges. Rationale. The pleura is a double-layered membrane that surrounds and protects the lungs, with a small amount of fluid between the layers to reduce friction during breathing. Which of the following is a function of the cilia in the respiratory tract? A. Produce mucus. B. Trap and move particles out of the airways. C. Facilitate gas exchange. D. Strengthen the bronchial walls. Rationale. Cilia are hair-like structures that line the respiratory tract and move in a coordinated manner to trap and move particles and mucus out of the airways. What is the term for the amount of air moved into or out of the lungs during normal breathing? A. Tidal volume. B. Vital capacity. C. Inspiratory reserve volume. D. Expiratory reserve volume. Rationale. Tidal volume is the amount of air inhaled or exhaled during normal, unforced breathing, typically around 500 milliliters in a healthy adult. Which of the following structures is not part of the respiratory zone of the respiratory system? A. Alveoli. B. Respiratory bronchioles. C. Trachea. D. Alveolar ducts. Rationale. The respiratory zone includes structures involved in gas exchange, such as the alveoli, respiratory bronchioles, and alveolar ducts, while the trachea is part of the conducting zone. What is the primary component of the respiratory membrane where gas exchange occurs? A. Capillary endothelium and alveolar epithelium. B. Bronchi and bronchioles. C. Pleura and diaphragm. D. Nasal cavity and pharynx. Rationale. The respiratory membrane consists of the capillary endothelium and alveolar epithelium, where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. Which part of the pharynx is involved in both the respiratory and digestive systems? A. Nasopharynx. B. Oropharynx. C. Laryngopharynx. D. Hypopharynx. Rationale. The oropharynx is a part of the pharynx that serves both the respiratory and digestive systems by allowing the passage of air and food. What is the primary role of the respiratory centers in the brainstem? A. Control heart rate. B. Regulate respiratory rate and depth. C. Monitor blood pressure. D. Produce digestive enzymes. Rationale. The respiratory centers in the brainstem, including the medulla oblongata and pons, regulate the rate and depth of breathing to maintain proper levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. Which respiratory structure is also known as the voice box? A. Trachea. B. Larynx. C. Bronchus. D. Epiglottis. Rationale. The larynx, or voice box, contains the vocal cords and is responsible for producing sound as air passes through it. Which term describes the exchange of gases between the blood and the body tissues? A. External respiration. B. Internal respiration. C. Ventilation. D. Perfusion. Rationale. Internal respiration is the process of gas exchange between the blood and body tissues, where oxygen is delivered to the cells and carbon dioxide is picked up for removal.